Hi, friends, and welcome back. So, it is the holidays, and first, let me stop and wish everyone a Merry Christmas or a Happy Holiday, whatever you celebrate this time of year. I pray that you are safe and that you have an enjoyable time, and I'm going to go ahead and send out blessings for the new year. So, speaking of the new year, I wanted to come and talk to you all about the art of not giving a rip because as we move forward in 2025, it's not lost on anyone, I'm sure, that the world is just getting crazy and everyone has an opinion. If you're on social media, I mean, that is just it can be like a war zone, but sometimes not even just on social media, even in our own friend circles, in our own family. We are finding now that people are a little bit less reserved in giving their opinion on the way that you should be living your life. And I have found that it is just better not to care. Now, there is an art to not giving a rip, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But healthy self esteem looks like the opinions of other people don't matter to me. And I'm going to give a little more detail about that, but I want to just establish what I'm talking about when I say the art of not giving a rip. When you are healthy and strong and confident in who you are, you just don't let other people's opinions sway you. And I see people do this all the time. Someone said something about how they look, or someone said something about what they're doing, and they just kind of can spiral downward in the in being concerned about what other people are thinking or saying about their lives. And other people just really don't have any level of jurisdiction over who you are, how you're showing up in the world, and what you're doing. So let me kind of flesh that out a little bit and see if I can give you a little bit more detail around what I'm talking about. When I say the art of not giving a rip, I'm not saying move through the world just acting like a monster and just using this as an excuse to not grow. And so we are all on a spiritual path, a spiritual journey, and the entire journey, the entire reason for us being here in physical form is the development of ourselves, which translates into the expanding of our souls. So it matters who you are becoming, but that is irrespective of what other people's opinions about who you're becoming, right? So the only thing that matters is your opinion of yourself, right? So you're here in physical form and you're supposed to be growing, moving along your journey, becoming your highest and best. And so that really is just a relationship between you and your inner being and your soul. Because as you grow, your soul expands. That really is all that matters. And so the people that are around you, they're kind of just players, if you will, in your game, but they aren't the entire game. So they have their own journeys and they're supposed to be becoming their highest and best. And so what they do is ultimately even disconnected and irrespective of what you think about it. And that's the way we should be living our lives. So, what does this look like? This looks like as I move throughout my life and as you move throughout yours, the only thing that matters to you is who you are becoming. So, your opinion of yourself is valued above anybody else's opinion. So, like I said, you're not moving through the world with an excuse of not growing. You are constantly growing, but you're doing that based on your own measuring stick. not what other people think or say about you. So, now having said that, when you find yourself receiving constructive criticism, I'll call it, from other people, if it's someone that you value, if it's someone that is growing themselves, and if it's someone who is looking like they are accomplishing what they need to accomplish on their journey, then of course you want to take what they're saying to heart. It doesn't mean that you're going to value their opinion over your own view of yourself, but it does mean that if it's a respected person, that you will give them permission to comment or give you constructive feedback and that you'll take it to heart. So for me, what this looks like is my opinion of myself. It's pretty high. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm not perfect, but because I'm always on this path of trying to become better, I have a certain level of confidence in myself. Right? I'm not perfect. And I'm confident enough to say that I'm not perfect. I can rattle off all my flaws. I'm open about my flaws. People that know me will hear me talk about my flaws all the time. I'm constantly working on them, trying to become a better person. Some of them are bigger than others. The little tiny things that I do, they may not be front and center. Um, I may not be spending a lot of time trying to master those at this moment because I'm working on bigger things. And that's okay. But I'm very comfortable with whom I am because I know that I'm always trying to become more, better, the highest version of myself. I do that with the backdrop of knowing and understanding and being comfortable with the fact that I'm not perfect. And so I can rest in that. And so when someone that I trust says to me, like, hey, you did this, that, and the other, or maybe you're always this, that, and the other, I can receive that with confidence. Like there is no diminishment to myself because I've done the work of valuing myself and valuing my opinion above other people, right? So, what this looks like to me when someone says something is I ask myself, A, is it true? B, is it partially true? Or C, is it not true at all? And if it is true, then I'll receive it and I'll say, hey, you need to do better. That person is right. You need to work on this. You need to stop doing this. You need to be better about this. I receive that joyfully. Or is it partially true? Sometimes people will have an opinion about what we're doing in our lives. They add way more of their slant or bent or their opinion on it, but sometimes there's just a nugget of truth in there that should be received and should be considered. And I have a little story about that in a second. And then lastly, sometimes people are just saying stuff and it just there's no truth to it at all. It's just coming from a weird place or their own insecurities, and you just want to just disregard that and just ignore that altogether. So those are my three categories. A, is it true? B, is it partially true? C, is it not true at all? If it is not true at all, I'm going to disregard it. If it is true or partially true, then I'm going to ask myself to try to improve in those particular areas. And so here's a story where this just recently happened to me. So I recently got a new car. It was earlier in the year, and I got a Maserati. And so the fact that it's a Maserati really isn't important. I mean, that's not a humble brag, but just to kind of paint a picture of what this looks like, I want to go ahead and put that in there. So I got this car, and I mean, if you know anything about those cars, they aren't cheap. So, my first time taking it to the dealership, the car got damaged. It was damaged pretty bad. A lot of it was just kind of cosmetic where they washed the car, and I asked them not to wash it. That was the first thing. I said, hey, please don't wash my car. They said they understood that it wouldn't be washed. So when I picked it up and I saw that it had just damage all over it, some of it was minor, like sometimes when you wipe a car and you don't have a clean rag, just any kind of dust in there will leave like minor scratches. And so it was a situation where I could see that on some parts of the car. Did it really take away from the look of the car or anything like that? Not really, but I wasn't pleased that that happened to my car. I didn't bring my car there with that damage. And so I was upset. There were some gouges on the car. Now, those were very upsetting to me. I was willing to overlook the minor damage that you probably wouldn't really notice unless you just knew it was there when you got down on the car. It's not that big of a deal. If you followed me, if you've listened to some of my other videos, I talk about materialism and how you can't be extremely tied to material things. And so I stand on that. But this was different for me. This was principle that if I bring my car to a dealership, I'm not expecting it to get damaged. And like I said, the minor stuff I could overlook, but the gouges I couldn't. Right? It was very obvious damage. And if you know anything about those cars, and this is why one of the reasons why I think is important to give that backdrop, for me to have to go to an auto body repair shop and have that repaired, that was going to cost a couple grand. And I felt like, well, I'm not paying for that because I didn't do that. The car wasn't damaged when I brought it here. So when I pointed it out to the manager, they told me the car was like that when you brought it here, and I 100% knew that the car was not like that. So here's what happens. I'm talking to the manager. He's telling me, you're not being honest. When you brought that car here, that car was like that. And I knew it wasn't like that. I had just got the car, it was almost brand new. So I had to reach down in my bag and find inner city Tanya, uh, the way that I grew up, and I had to kind of come out of a bag on the people in the dealership, right? So if you can imagine this pristine dealership and all these people are in there, professionals, and I was being treated like I was not being honest. And so I had to kind of take a stance or take a position like I'm not getting ready to let you all get over on me because I know I didn't bring this car like this, and I'm not incurring personally the cost of paying for this damage that you did to the car. I just wasn't going to leave the dealership until it was rectified, right? And so my husband was there. My husband was over on the side. He's just watching. I'm going back and forth with the people, hands on their hip. They're refusing. I'm getting upset. Okay, you get it. So they ultimately agreed that they would fix the car. I'm like, pull the cameras, do whatever you got to do, but I'm not leaving here with my car damaged like that. So they ultimately agreed to it. Fine. The minor cosmetic stuff, I'm not happy about that, but I'm willing to accept that because I live my life kind of under the guise of understanding vibration and high vibration and low vibration. And I know that at times when my vibration is low, or if I'm not managing it well, I can kind of get into these little situations that I just call life. Like when your vibration gets low, you just kind of put yourself on a plane where just things like this are going to happen. So I was willing to let that part of it go. Okay. When I'm leaving the dealership with my husband, he looks at me and he says, "Did you really have to get that loud, Tanya?" And I said, "Oh, was I loud?" He said, "Yeah, you were really loud in the dealership. It was a little ghetto." And I thought, oh, me? Ghetto in the dealership? So we kind of had a little bit of a laugh about it. But me, because I'm a person that's always trying to grow and just make sure that I'm showing up as my best wherever I can, I put his comment in the category of partially true, right? It didn't matter what he said to me, to be out. His opinion about it didn't matter. But when I looked at it and I asked myself, is there a way that you could have handled that where you didn't get as loud in the dealership? Maybe. Maybe I couldn't have. Maybe the only reason why they agreed to pay for the damage that they did was because I did get loud. I'm not sure. And from where I stand now, I can't really say. Maybe if I would have been nicer or softer, or a little more amenable, maybe they would have said we're not going to pay for it. So I can't really say whether or not me having to, as I said, reach in my bag and come out of it, was necessary or not necessary. But when he said that to me, I thought, potentially this is true. Maybe it was a situation where I didn't have to get that loud. And in the future, if I'm in this situation again, I'm going to be mindful of that. I'm going to be mindful of, can I resolve this without letting this escalate to the level that it did? So for me, not that his opinion of it matter, because he called me ghetto. That's fine. He said I acted ghetto. I'm sorry, he didn't call me ghetto. He said you were acting ghetto in the dealership. His opinion about that didn't matter, but his feedback was very important to me because I value that. And I know who he is and I know he wants the best for me. So I received it. So, yeah, that's kind of how I've handled other people's opinions about me or what I'm doing. At the end of the day, only my opinion about myself matters. And because I only want the best for myself, because I'm always trying to become a better person, I'm going to receive feedback from people that I trust, have my best interest at heart. But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is my opinion about myself and my relationship to my higher being and my soul's expansion. So I hope that helps go into 2025 with healthy self esteem. Stop letting the opinions of other people shape you and change you and make you not move in directions that you really want to move in, or feel bad about yourself or what you're doing or how you look or what you have accomplished or what you haven't accomplished. Those kinds of conversations are only between you and you. They need to keep their opinions to themselves. Um, just smile. When you're in the face of someone that's giving you feedback, you may want to try what I do. Like I said, is ABC. Is true, is partially true, or is not true at all. The last one I pitch, the other two I kind of manage. You may want to do that, but just smile when people are speaking to you about your life. They have no jurisdiction over who you are and what you're doing, and just move on. And as long as you're becoming your highest and best, that's all that matters. You may not tackle everything all at once. I certainly don't. And you may not be perfect. I'm certainly not. But if you have a commitment to yourself, that's all that matters. And you're going to feel really good about that. That's what healthy self esteem is. It means that I'm not perfect, but I love myself and I'm trying my damnedest. And if you're doing that, that's all that matters. So have a wonderful holiday. I wish you blessings and I will see you all in the new year.